Welcome back to another episode of the Backlog Breakdown, a video game podcast where we seek to encourage and equip the church to engage the medium of video games wisely and responsibly, or as I am prone to say, wisely and well. I'm one of your hosts, Nate, and with me today is my co-host friend and brother in Christ, Joshua. Hi, Josh.
Hello. Hey, Nate.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Hi there.
Hi. How's it going? How's it going,
Well,
Josh?
you introduced me, but I think you left someone behind, didn't you?
Yeah, our shenanigans got kind of like, oh, I left someone behind. You're the worst. Yeah, I did. We are joined
He's
today
just
by
chilling.
a very special guest. The man with the most chill. He is the big chill. Alex Castellanos. I hope I didn't like white your name up too much.
It was excellent. I loved it. That was great.
Okay.
I feel more Puerto Rican after hearing you say my name.
Well, listen, my wife is half Cuban, and I actually work with a guy named Jaime, and we call him Jaime at work, but it is Jaime.
Sure.
And we will talk about it, and sometimes I and it's like he doesn't care, like he answers to both, but I do try to say Jaime, just because like my wife is like, his name is Jaime, and I was just like, he doesn't care. But anyways, so she keeps me colorful, because otherwise, like I'm about as white bread as it gets, brother. So yeah, I'm like when we adopted my son. Funny story. The judge, he asks you a bunch of questions, and they ask you questions about like your ethnicity. And apparently, I was kind of like nervous, which is weird, but not that weird, right? It's like I talk a lot. I talk on this podcast. I talk a lot in real life, and they were like, "So what's your ethnicity?" And I said, "I'm a mutt." Like, I just was like, so like, I was just like, I'm like a Euro mutt. I'm like, lots of European, like, some British, some German, some Scotch and Irish in there. I said, like, I'm a mutt. And the judge was like, I've never heard that one before. And I was like, I got a little like, like, kind of like,
Did not want that answer.
He didn't mind the answer. He was like,
okay.
it wasn't like, he wasn't like mad about it or anything, but he was just like, oh, that's a new one for me. So,
Who made his day
but
unique, Nate? It wasn't a run of the mill day for him anymore.
yeah. But anyways, it's well, this is your first time on the show, Alex, but you are no stranger to this format. And I guess, that I would like to know how it's been.
Oh, yeah.
Josh.
It's been.
Yeah.
It's been with you lately, my friend. This is your first time on the show, so you can take a couple minutes to just let us know whatever you want. Like, tell us a little bit about yourself and let us know how you've been lately.
All right. It's been good. I'm Alex Castellanos, like you said. Castellanos, I guess.
Castellanos.
I am in New Jersey. I've been all right. I guess a little bit about me. I go to a church that called Cornerstone Christian Church. I'm a member there, and a shepherd there. They call their leaders shepherds. And I'm on the worship team, play piano and sing. And for work, I work at an electrical engineering company. They do like commercial and industrial design projects, and I'm not an engineer, but I'm on the design team. I do drafting and design using like AutoCAD. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but just to help make the blueprints and the drawing packages and things like that. So that's what I do by day. and married for 19 years to a
Oh,
beautiful wife,
wow.
Alina.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude. That's
got
very
married
cool.
at 21, so I'm 40 now,
Yeah.
getting up there.
Yeah.
And yeah, we just living our life, doing the best we can to serve God as best we can in our community, our family. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. Well, dude, that's
Awesome.
that's a pile of stuff in there, man. Like one, you're an engineer. So like
I'm
and
not an
that
engineer.
wow. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but it just I was just thinking too. I was thinking like, you're sort of also underselling it that you are absolutely cutthroat when it comes to Fantasy Critic.
Mm.
Like,
Okay.
we have the only 80s rule, or as I like to call it,
Yes.
the big chill rule. Like we only pick 80s. Um, you know,
Yes.
but
The off maligned 80s rule. It's been incredibly butchered over the years, but that's all right.
dude, well, none of it. I don't think any of us hold to it very well. Yeah, but
Can I
yeah,
explain? Can I take 1 minute to explain what I meant by that rule, just to clear the
Mhm.
air a little bit,
yeah, dude,
and
yeah,
then we can
dude.
move on.
Okay, okay, okay.
So when I said I only pick 80s, what I meant to say, and what I aim for with Fantasy Critic
Mhm.
is a lot of us are trying to find that next amazing great game. You see the trailers, you see the gameplay presentations, and you're just like, this game has so much potential and has such a high ceiling, and people go for it and they try to pick up on these games, but those games can also have a pretty low floor.
Mhm.
And for
Mhm.
me, I'm looking for games that have a higher floor. I want to see, like, if nothing great happens in this game, I'm still looking at an 80. And
Mhm.
that's kind of where I want to, because I figure that's just safe.
Mhm.
And I, I of course fail all the time at that, but that is
Yeah.
my mindset. I'm not necessarily looking for the next 95. I'm looking for a lot of 80s. And that was my mentality there.
Y- Yeah, I think it was just like when you originally said it, it was just like the way you said it, was like I try to only pick 80s or something like that. And it
Right,
was
right.
like and everybody was just like, okay, guy. Like, but you dominated the Dear Critics League for like it was like 3 years running or
Mhm.
something like that. It was like my first like 2-3 years in the league, and you were just like, and it wasn't even really close. It's only within the last couple
Yeah,
of years
first
that
year that
things
you
have.
joined was like, I for whatever reason, I the league was kind of all in one spot, and I hit everything that year. It's been
Yeah,
hard to repeat for sure.
Mm.
but this year I'm making you know I don't want to get too much into the league talk, but especially since like most people are like, what is the Dear Critics League? But this year I'm making a run at it, and I think I'm feeling pretty
Mm.
froggy,
Yeah,
like.
yeah, for sure.
So we actually, we do have something potentially planned with Micah and Adam. Um, the four of us need to make that happen. It'll be fun. Um, that's
Nice.
definitely
Yeah, I
something
haven't.
that. Well, go ahead.
I was just saying, I haven't heard anything about that yet. But yeah, I know that we wanted to talk, try to get
Yeah,
a discussion going.
yeah. Well, this will be. This will be a good reminder. I'll bug Micah about it and be like, let's make this happen. Because he and I were talking about it, and I was like, dude, that'd be sick. And he was like, I'll reach out to them. That's it. So, anyways, yeah, we need to make that happen. Anyways, so, well, that's how it's been with you. But how has it been with you, Josh?
Man, oh man, just relentless.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're doing good. This last week, I've been out of pocket a bit. We took a trip to Minneapolis, Minnesota, for a worship leader gathering through our church denomination, the EFCA. They met in Minneapolis, and so I took the family. and we have a puppy. We have a dog, so we brought the dog along. Planned to do a bunch of stuff outside, and it was kind of rainy for the first couple days. So spent a lot of time at the hotel pool, which my kids
Mm.
loved. So like, I guess that's still a plus there. But we were able to take a day and go out to this park in the middle of town that had a waterfall. It was like a 50-foot waterfall, which is pretty cool, and go hiking, and just some really cool parks that we
Hmm.
were able to see. So we had a good time. We had a good time in the conference, the gathering, whatnot was good. It was encouraging too. So enjoyed our time out there. Been up and down with some sickness, still lingering with the family. We actually sat down to eat because it's mostly been the tail end of it has been my wife had gotten hit with sickness. And I think actually the last time we recorded, she was getting sick, and she was feeling better. We were in Minneapolis, the whole family sleeping in one room in a hotel, not exactly the
Mm.
most fun in the world.
Mm.
But you do what you got to do. But we get back, and it's just kind of lingering effects, but she's feeling better. But last night we sat down to eat dinner. She takes a few bites of soup. She's like, you know what? I can't taste this. And I couldn't smell it while you were cooking.
Awesome.
So there's no there's no real other effect, just, kind of lingering cough, but not that bad. She's very tired. But
Mm.
now, she wasn't able to go to this event that we went to this evening. Cause seems like she's got COVID, which is super
Got
fun.
the
So
covfefe.
yeah, I think that was supposed to be coffee. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. So kind of up and down, good stuff for the most part, but also just, man, the sickness doesn't seem to want to leave the household. But hey,
Mm.
but it's
Mm.
also, it's times like this that are opportunities to continue to trust God, like in a real day to day way. Of, what, I struggle with being frustrated when I have to cancel plans, when I have, and do stuff like this. And like, I know for me, when I was sick a couple weeks ago, like I struggle with, like, oh, I'm going to be better. Oh, I'm not better. And I get frustrated, and it's legitimately a struggle. And I know it's on a very small scale, but at least, relatively, but it is an opportunity to say, you know what? No, this is not beyond God's control. And he is, if I do believe that he's good, he's trying to teach me something in the midst of this, right? And maybe
Mm.
that's just to trust in him, to take a step back. These things will work themselves out. And I have to accept that I'm not in control. So there's that element as well, which is a good thing. It's just not always an easy thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyways, I'll get off my soapbox, but that's how we've been. Yeah.
Cool. 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 Cool.
How have you been, sir?
We're okay. We're okay. Byron did manage to recover from hand, foot, and mouth. Um,
Nice.
I hate that. Like, it's like one of those diseases that is it just feels like mean spirited. Like
Mm,
it's a viral thing, and it's just like it's not super life threatening or anything. It's just painful and unpleasant and makes you
yeah.
miserable for like the better part of a week. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, ugh, gross. Like it's like wasps. Like it's like, or do wasps actually do anything except for like sting people and ruin nice days? I doubt it. But so, but yeah, we're not really sick. We do have like I think like some allergy stuff kind of like percolating.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it's that time of year. You just have to watch out for it because like that's the kind of stuff where it's like Megan actually the other week went to like a Med Express eye care kind of thing because she thought she was getting an ear infection, and it turns out, well, no, you just have really intense like congestion and pressure.
Oh man.
So
Yeah.
we're kind of like doing the like you know I'm doing the thing where I dope myself with cold medicine, and I'm actually trying to cut back on energy drinks. So it's like really, it's
Mm.
tough for me. It's like, thoughts and prayers, folks. I need them. Yeah, but I can't rely on cold medicine and caffeine. It's just the cold medicine, because I am. But for the next couple of days, that might go a little bit on the whatever. But Yeah, we're doing pretty good. We did have a family reunion the
Oh,
other
cool.
week. Went and sort of with my dad's side. It was just like it's one of those things where I took a half day at work. We drove out to a neighboring town about 45 minutes away, and my parents came in. My one sister brought, and her husband and their kids came in, and it was like just hanging out with my dad's side. And what's kind of funny is like, I have no problem sort of admitting that I'm a little rough around the edges, but like, and my parents are, pretty sweet people. Like, they're just, and it's kind of one of those things where it's like I am a lot rougher than them, like a lot. And I've always kind of wondered where that came from. I spent about 30
Okay.
seconds talking to my one uncle, and I was like, "Oh no, there it is. Like that's it. That's it." I was like, it's a McKeever thing. Um, so, but no, it was cool to see everybody. And you haven't seen some of those people came. I haven't seen a good bit of those people since like my wedding, and that was
Mhm.
12, 13 years ago. And it's like, so yeah, it's just kind of, but it was whatever. And then, yeah, but that was cool. It just was also like, it's just weird. Cause at the same time, it's like, I love these people. Like I'm bound to these people and I'm glad I know them, but it's also, I haven't seen them in like 15 years. And so that makes things like a little awkward, but yeah, and then we got some birthdays coming up. Like actually tonight we went out to dinner at there's like a ramen place that does like ramen and stir fry and all sorts of stuff. And so we went there for Megan's stepdad, for Pappy D. We went, we took him out to dinner. And then in in like a week, Megan will have a birthday, and then a little bit after that, Byron will have a birthday. So we've got birthdays coming up in the next couple of weeks. Just kind of gearing up for that. I'm going to be home uh, next week, pretty much to prep for that. So like, just like do birthday stuff. Yeah. So
Nice.
yeah, that's how we're doing. It's like that's how it's been with us.
Mm.
But
Mm.
we are we have other forms to observe, and
That's true.
I think, Josh, as much as I'm gonna hate what's gonna. Do you have any experiences you'd like to share?
Press start, what's on your mind? Books, go, tracks, the best we can find. Chew it up, we're ready to play. Sharing the loot in a brand new way. XP share, plug in, let's go. Drop your favorites, let the pixels glow. XP share, we're leveling up. Turn the page, hit play, crank it up.
Yeah, experiences to share. Yeah, we got lots of experiences to share. This is a where we talk about different forms of media before we get to video games, other media we may be consuming and or not consuming. Just interesting anecdotes and experiences to share with each other. So, do we want to go in the same order? How's that sound?
Yeah, well, I thought like since Alex is our guest, we can let him go first. So,
Be our
what have you been
guest.
into, Big Chill?
I have not been into much. It's my wife and I, we are fans of just chilling out at the end of the day and
Mm-hmm.
watching some good old network TV.
Yep.
Mm.
We're those people that keep those shows on the air for years and years. So, the new fall shows are out. We're checking them out, seeing what's good, what's not good. So that's a
Any
lot of what we've been
standouts?
doing, trying to, not really. Oh, and CBS, there is a show that's been out for a couple of years called Fire Country. And they just
Hmm.
did a spin-off show now called Sheriff Country, which is
Mm.
basically the same town, but now they're focusing on the cops instead of the fire department. And
Okay.
uh, we hadn't watched either show, so we checked out the Sheriff Country because it was new, and we kind of liked it. So then we went back on Paramount Plus and started watching some of the Fire Country stuff, and it was pretty good. So it's good to watch while we're having dinner and just watching it, put an episode of that on and just see what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's pretty. It's all tame TV. We don't have to worry about anything too crazy. So we're
Sure.
fans of that. The
Yeah.
other thing that I think I've been into right now is over the last few months, I've been reading comics from this comic book company called the Rippaverse. There's a
Hmm.
guy by the name of Eric July. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Oh
And
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, so he is a Christian, and he's not necessarily a Christian company, although he has a lot of people who are Catholic or Christian on staff. And so they started their own independent comic book company and like publishing company. And I've been getting into reading some of those comics and getting caught up on that universe. So it's called the Rippaverse. Here, I brought a visual aid for anyone who's watching.
Oh, nice.
This was like the first thing that I bought. It was like it's called the Trinity, and it was like the three other big comics, issue number one, just back to back. They call them comics, but they're really very much graphic novel style. They'd be like, 60 to 90 pages depending on the
Oh
issue.
wow.
And so this was the first book I bought, and it's pretty big, but it was interesting. It was a lot of the number ones, and it caught my attention, and I wanted to support the company, so I started looking into other ones. It's been fun. So I've been grabbing those. If anyone's interested in those, I'll point you in that direction. Rippaverse is pretty cool.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't read as many comics consistently as I used to. If it's like definitely one of those things where I remember seeing him sort of announce the launch, but actually look
Yeah.
like that big collection that you had. That's actually like I like that kind of stuff where it's like just let me sit down and like chew through a good bit, like turn through a good bit of content in one shot. And so yeah,
Yeah,
I
me
might have
too.
to check
I
that
do
out.
like the collections. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I do
So
remember when he was launching it a few years ago. I think in 2022, he launched
mhm.
the company with he had like a big Kickstarter or something to try to get, or like some sort of campaign to get the first issue going. And I do remember hearing about that. And then I remember Last Stand Media, I remember Colin Moriarty had um, a woman on, I'm forgetting her name right now, who had gotten fired from limited
Oh,
run games.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I remember that one too.
And when she was going through like her media circuit and people were having her on shows, Eric July has a podcast and he had her on as well. And he ended up hiring her to be like,
Mm.
part of their social media team or something like that. So it had come up a couple of times, but I hadn't really jumped on and dove into the comics until this past year, and I started really reading. So I like them. I think they've been fun, and it's interesting to not be bogged down with like you don't know where to start, and you don't know the history of these characters. All these characters are
Hmm.
fairly new, so
Hmm.
it's easy to just say, well, they're only on issue 3. I'll just read the first one, and you're caught up immediately if you want to. So
Yeah. I like
Nice.
that.
yeah,
I have to check that out. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
ever
Well,
expanding.
Joshua,
Hmm.
how about
Yes,
you?
sir. Yeah.
What you been
What do I
into?
have to share? Really. So I realized that there's a bunch of new music that is kind of nostalgic, or by bands that have been around for a while. It seems like in the past like 2 or 3 weeks, like 6 or 7 different bands that I like have released new albums. And so I'm going to just run this down really quickly. There's music that I have not listened to that I need to. Thrice put out a new album. I tried to listen to it on the drive to Minneapolis, but it's kind of atmospheric, so I couldn't really listen to it with the car noise. Like it didn't work. So I still need to listen to that. Motion City Soundtrack put out a new album, and I still have not listened to that. I've just heard a few of their singles, which I liked one of them. The other one was Laden with Expletives, which is still a fun song, but it is laden with expletives, so I don't recommend it. And then Coheed and Cambria put out a deluxe version of their latest album, so that it has like 5 new songs on it. And so I listened through those, and those are good. Mayday Parade is a band that's been around for quite a while. They're on their second of like a 3-part album series this year. They're only like 20-30 minute albums. And I enjoyed the last one, although there were a few expletives on it. This one does not have any expletives on it. And it's nice, fun, breezy kind of emo pop music, which is fun. I enjoy that. Yellow Card put out an album, which, if you remember those guys, and it's good. They have Travis Barker playing their drums, Blink-182 guy, and I think he produced
Oh,
the
wow.
album also. It's a good album. It is short. It is highly produced. Like, I haven't heard the singer in a while. Like, I haven't kept up with them, and it seems like most singers kind of lose their range as they get older. It seems like his range has increased, or at least he sings a bit higher. But it's a good album, so it's fun. There's a track with Avril Lavigne on it, which I think is kind of funny, but she does a good job. So there's that. And then lastly, the Starting Line put out their first full length in like 18 years. Unfortunately, it's not my favorite. It's just okay. Like, it's not bad, but it is much more kind of raw sounding. The guy's vocal tone has changed quite a bit. It sounds like he smokes, because it sounds like he's on the verge of losing his voice the whole song. And it just doesn't, it just sounds more raw and laid back. And the mix is kind of off a bit too. It's a little muddy. It's not very dynamic. And I get that maybe they don't want to sound like they used to with a big produced sound. Totally understand that. But to me, it just went the opposite direction a bit too far, where I still enjoyed some of the tracks, but I feel like anytime that I put it on, I'll probably just go listen to their older stuff because I really like their older stuff. So anyways, that's just a handful of bands that I like that have been putting out new music. So those are my experiences to share.
Cool. Well, I did. I followed up with you actually and just checked out some of the stories so far, and they were fine. Like it was fun.
Yeah.
It was like good. I can definitely see where you're just like, yeah, they kind of write like the same like 3 songs, and it's just like yeah, but they've got like a decent sound. So
Yeah.
But I really haven't been into too much lately. Like I've kind of I just haven't been watching or reading a ton. I mean, I'm still grinding away at like the Malazan books of the Fallen, sort of like
Okay.
just, like doing like major nerd work. The 10 Very Big Books podcast. So, and it's been kind of interesting, and all I'm gonna like, it's one of those things like, you know how sometimes like maybe you guys don't do this. Maybe you're not as, I'm just gonna say, arrogant as I am. But I'm listening to this 10 Very Big Books podcast, and I know part of it is like the two of the people on that podcast have never read the books at all before. But it's
Okay.
like I'm listening to it, and like they'll do like chapter recaps and stuff, and I'm like, no, that's like, and I'm listening to those same chapters, and then I'm listening to the episode, and so it's like I'm kind of like doing it that way, and I'm just like, nope, that's not right. That's not right. That's no, like, and it's just like, and it's fun, but I'm also like, it's kind of like one of those things like, oh, like, yeah, I'm kind of a turd. Like, so, but it just kind of like, that's been an experience. But like, as far as like interesting stuff that I've kind of been into lately, a friend of mine, a guy actually, that lives in town, he's part of a band called Tiger Wine, and it's like alt rock
Okay.
kind of. He was like, a scene kid, kind of when I was, and he plays drums, really gifted drummer. But the band's called Tiger Wine, and he posted something where, and I was just like, oh yeah, like they released an album last year, and so it's not what I would call like my go-to music, but it's like I know him, so I'm gonna like check out his stuff, and it's kind of
Yeah.
atmospheric alt rock. It's a cool album. I'm enjoying it. I haven't like listen to it like super in depth, but I didn't hear anything like super objectionable off the crack, but it's like, yeah, it might be worth, encouraging people to check it out. Cause I think it's a cool sound.
Mhm.
So Toil and Spin is the name of the album that I've been listening to by them. And that's their most recent one. They released that last year. The other thing
Nice.
I've kind of really been into, and it's kind of slow going, even though it is essentially like a manga or graphic novel. But it's the same guy who did the Legend of Zelda manga has a new book called Kamuto. Um, and it's pretty and kind of cool. And
Okay.
so I got that a little while ago, and I've kind of been just reading a little bit at a time, and it's cool, and I like it. And the artwork is just like gorgeous. Um,
Mm.
I love that dude's style. It's so good. It's so stinking good. It's not like a super clean style. It's like it is very like kind of like ornate. Um,
Mhm.
but like, yeah, it's pretty dope. Like if you
Nice.
like really cool art and kind of like a weird like fantasy story kind of stuff, like yeah, Kamuto's kind of dope. So yeah, that's what I've been into that is not video games.
Mm.
Nice.
But we are a video game podcast, and we should talk about what
That's
we've been
right.
playing. So, Alex, what have you been playing, my guy?
What have I been playing? I have most recently. I've been jumping into Stardew Valley. I uh,
Ah.
I
Ooh.
played it very briefly a few years ago, and just to try it out, and I probably got it really cheap, and then played for a little while, and then walked away and did something else.
Sure.
And I was just on Quick Play Mark's podcast a little while ago, and I know he loves Stardew Valley. He talks about it all the time. So I
Mm-hmm.
saw it again, and let me just download this again and start playing. So I'm digging back in. I'm not terribly deep into it, but I've been playing that the last couple Saturdays, trying to figure out what's going on as things continue to unravel in that game. So that's what I've been playing the most recently. But before that, I have been in this mode where I'm just kind of picking here or there an hour or two at a time for a lot of different games. So I played Pac-Man World Repack for an hour or two, and that was
Is
fun.
that
It
like
was
the
fun.
gritty reboot thing?
No, no, no. This is a, PS1 game that they remastered. Just the original Pac-Man World game remastered, and
Oh, okay. Like the 3D platformer
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Okay,
3D
okay.
platformer game. It's just a cute kids game, and I just went in there just to run around in a 3D environment and play as Pac-Man. So I played that for a couple hours, and I was also playing before that Hollow Knight Silk Song,
Mm.
and I was telling you guys in the pre-show how I was very much running into walls while playing that game, and then having to leave. And this is when I would play Pac-Man or other things. I would have to go play
Yeah.
something else, kind
Mm,
of clear my head, play something that was absolutely not challenging. This way, I can go back and resume the frustration that was Hollow Knight Silksong. But I haven't picked that up in a couple of weeks. I haven't uh, played in a little
Gotcha.
while. I know I'm nearing the point where the frustration will rise and my sense of progression will wane. So I know I'm towards the end of my
mm,
experience with Hollow Knight Silksong. I probably could push forward a little more and get a little further, but I don't like to get to the point when I was a wee lad. I would very much get to the point in my video games where I just wanted to rip the controller apart or throw it somewhere, and I don't like experiencing that anymore as an adult.
mm, mm.
So I tend to turn the page and do something else. But yeah, those are the things that I'm playing. I think the last game that I've beaten was Suikoden 1 remaster. I bought that Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remaster, and I played Suikoden 1 again. And those are great games. I love both of those games. I didn't get to the second one just because it takes me so long to play. But I played the first one and got to the end and then moved on. But I intend on getting back to the second one too because I love both of those games. They're great.
I don't know if I've ever shared my Suikoden story. It involves my friend Bull, that passed away a while ago. At this point, but I was over at his house and they had a PlayStation, and their memory card was full. But he was like, "Hey," he was like, "I think you'd really enjoy this game. Why don't you like check it out? You can't save right now because we don't have any spare memory cards." And I got on a tear with that game. Like, I mean, I stayed up like all night, was
Yeah.
just like ripping through it, and I actually like fell asleep. And there's this picture that is like one of my favorite pictures of me asleep on their couch. Controller in one hand, and I'm all sort of like balled up and, sort of, just like pure, like got my hood up, like, and pulled real tight, and like, just like, you know, just pure gamer, like hardcore gamer energy. Right. And
Yeah.
so I fell asleep. They came downstairs. They woke me up, him and his brother. And they're like, "Yo, you want breakfast?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I started playing the game again. And it was like, those fights where it's like, there's like there's like the little squad fights, and then you can do like there's big, like the big army fights, and then there's like you can do the duels. I was in one of those
Yes.
duels, and the duels are very like rock paper scissory.
Yep.
And now, granted, I was like 20 hours into this thing at this point. Like,
Oh no.
and
Oh
I
no.
woke up. I was like, "Yeah, breakfast sounds good." And I just sort of jumped right back into this game and proceed to die. And I was like, "That's the game." And I just went over and hit power and was like, done. And I've never gone back to Suikoden since. Like, because it was
Wow.
like, I was just like, I really liked what was there. I was having a really good time, but like that's sort of like, it's like just it completely kiboshed the energy, and I was just like, mm. So someday I might go back, because I think though what I would say is like the cast in those games, like that, like the 101 stars of Destiny or whatever, like
Yeah, 108.
that
Yeah.
108, yeah, that's just like, oh, that's a lot of characters to keep track of. And I know not all of them are combatants and everything else, but yeah. But
It's a
yeah,
great series, and that's a great story. Thank you for sharing it. It was fun. I liked it.
yeah, dude, it's just like, it's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I was like, I really like this, and then I was like, I'm really like on a tear, and then it's like, no, you're not. Like,
Yes. And it never inspired you to pick up the game yourself. You just left it right there.
I was just like, nope, we're done. We're never touching this again.
Yeah, your first mistake was playing an RPG on PlayStation without a memory card. Like,
Well,
Yes,
man.
yes.
it was one of those things too where it's like I just meant to like fool around with it.
Yeah.
And it
yeah.
was like, how sometimes like you just get in it and the game just like goes and you're just whoop right along. And
Yeah,
next
you're
thing I
sucked
know,
in.
it's like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I should have stopped way before that point. But I
Mhm.
was like, nah, I'm just going to be stupid. And we're going to try and like one shot this thing.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
but yeah.
Biggest mistake is playing a PlayStation RPG with no memory card. Second biggest mistake would be playing a PlayStation RPG with a suspect memory card, because then
Yeah.
you're just playing Russian roulette. I don't know if you guys had any of those knockoff
Oh
ones.
yeah.
I had one that was
Oh,
a
yeah.
4-in-1 with a little digital screen on it. You push the button to go to a different one. And that thing erased itself multiple times throughout my childhood. And man.
You
That's
just
the
kept
reason
rolling the
I
dice.
only,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason I only bought branded
Ugh.
memory cards for
Yeah.
anything.
Well, you were smart.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
anyways.
but
Yes, sir.
Joshua, what have you
Yeah.
been playing?
I don't really have much to say except that my library is pretty stinking cool because I talking with some people who are fans of the series. I kind of caught onto the hype train, so I hopped on my phone on my library app, and lo and behold, my library
Yes.
got in a
Look at that.
copy of Pokemon ZA, Pokemon Legends ZA for Nintendo Switch 2. I didn't even know they
Pokemon
carried Switch 2
Za.
games. Apparently, there's also Donkey Kong Bonanza right up the street, like 4 blocks from us at our library. And
What
I
a
was
great
not
library.
expecting. Yeah. So I took it with me to Minneapolis and was playing it there. And lo and behold, the due date, it's only 1 week that you get video games, but it just auto renewed because no one else put it on hold. So I'm like, okay, cool. I get it for another week, which is pretty sweet. So, and then I get the email from Nintendo. How you liking your new game? I'm like, that's funny. It's not mine, but anyway, so that's really what I've been spending time with is Pokemon Legends ZA. I will just basic impressions is that I really like the style of the Legends Arceus. I really like how it goes back in time. I really like how it's the old school Japan feel to it. And I like, surprisingly, how different this one is. Because Legends are side story, like Gaiden type games, I like how this one differentiates itself and it's not trying to be another Legends game. Like it's not trying to do the exact same thing that Arceus was trying to do. I actually like how it differentiates itself. So it's in a modern setting, you're in a town. It makes a really good first impression, I think. And so for the 5 or so hours that I've put into it, maybe 5, 8, something like that. I'm really enjoying my time. It does not have the best reviews, and apparently it gets stale by the end of the game is what I've heard is kind of the biggest problems with it, which might end up happening, because this one all takes place within one single city as opposed to Arceus, going out through a bunch of different landscapes. So I can see where those may become problems in the future, but for my time, I'm actually really enjoying it. I like some of the changes of the formula. I like how it feels distinct and unique, and it's not trying to be just another one. Because I think the Pokemon mainland series has that issue of like it's kind of more of the same with one added gimmick each generation. And this one feels like they really intentionally were trying to change from Arceus. And as much as I really like Arceus and everything that it did, I like that this one just feels distinct. And it's not trying to be the be all and end all of Pokemon games. And I appreciate that because it's not overwhelming. So, anyways, I'm enjoying my time with it. It's going to have to go back in just a few days, but and I probably won't pick it up for a while after that. But I've enjoyed my time with it. So that's really the only thing I've been playing. I've kind of set everything else aside because, hey, I have this game for 2 weeks, so cool. I'm gonna play it. So
Cool.
no change to my score, just a borrowed game.
I would, and
Josh,
also
talk
as
to
a
me about the
go ahead.
action combat in
Yes.
Pokemon
Yes.
Legends ZA.
So all of your attacks are on cooldowns. One of the reviewers that I had watched, who was not very hot on the game, said that it's like Xenoblade Light, and I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I can see where you get that from. One of the things that it does, it's Pokemon, so it's easy. Okay, you just basically get you gather a team of Pokemon that have moves that are super effective against your enemies, and then you switch them out accordingly. So I'm not that far into it, and so it's been easy, which is fine. The cooldown system thing actually causes me to use those attacks that I don't typically use, like Leer, that lower your enemy's defense or lower their attack or increase your special attack, because I'm waiting on my kind of big attacks for their cooldowns. So I've enjoyed it.
That's an
It
interesting
is
side of
very fast paced. So yeah,
cool.
I like it.
It just
I like
seemed like the most unique thing out of that game, where
Mhm.
there's moving around and aiming of attacks and things like this. That's
Mhm.
what it seemed anyway.
Yes, I have not encountered, again, I'm early in the game, but I have not encountered anything that where I need to line anything up in particular, or
Okay.
that I've found that there's much within battles that does, but it's fun to run around, yes. And it's fun to, see them attack each other and stuff like that. So, yeah, it feels good. It's basic,
Nice.
but it feels good. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I was just going to point out too that
Mhm.
according to Game Freak, the Legend series are not Gaidens. They
Okay.
are considered part of like the mainline Pokemon franchise. They are considered like canon mainline games.
Yeah,
So,
I can see how they are canon, yes, but it does feel much more like, well,
oh, I agree with you that they feel more like side stories than anything else.
yes,
I'm just saying
yeah,
that Game Freak says, "Oh no, they are not side stories.
hmm,
These are mainline Pokemon titles."
mhm.
So
Your mainline games, please purchase them.
Right,
yes,
right. We
that
want to see the sales of our mainline series. Yeah, that's the way that I understand that because it does not seem to have the ambition of a mainline. Like, I don't know how many Pokemon are in this game. Something tells me it's not 1,000, 200 or whatever they're at. It doesn't seem that expansive, which
that's
I kind of
entirely too many
like.
Pokemon.
Well, right? Yeah, yeah, uh, yeah.
Entirely too
Anyways,
many. Cool,
yeah.
cool, 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 cool. Well, I mean, I don't know that I've been playing a ton, but I have been playing a good bit lately, and
Mm,
so I'm like I said, I'm playing RCS. Um, I have thoughts there, but
mm,
we will save those primarily for the episode that we'll be doing on RCS here in the upcoming future. Um, so I'm still kind of like working through that a little bit. I'm debating honestly whether or not I ought to beat it or if I can just sort of like cut and run. But again, talk more about that
mm.
when we get to the RCS episode. So I beat Sword of the Sea. I talked about it last
Okay.
episode. I beat it. It's short. It was like I think my playtime was like 4 hours,
Oh, okay.
and it offers like a new game plus experience. And I sort of jumped into that for a little bit, and then I was kind of like, okay, like this is cool, and I really do like this, but I actually it kind of got me thinking. And Giant Squid actually made another game, The Pathless, that I had purchased fairly early on when I got my PS5, and I was like, oh, I forgot that I had that. Like, I want to go back and play that. So I've been playing The
Mhm.
Pathless, and the first time I came to The Pathless, it kind of was like a game where I just wasn't. It's kind of weird, but like Sword of the Sea kind of primed me for The Pathless in the sense that like it's a very flow state kind of game. And I think when tried to play it the first time, I just wasn't in the right headspace. But now I've been playing it this time, and it's like I've I've beaten the first couple of areas, and it's really like I'm kind of just enjoying that chill, like kind of here for the vibes, but there's also like some interesting gameplay loops, and like there's just kind of like I don't know. I kind of like what Giant Squid does. It's that very like journey adjacent gameplay. I would say so. At this point in time, I've played Abzu. Abzu, in my opinion, is pretty much the weakest. I don't hate
Okay.
it, but I think that I think the fact that it is like you're just kind of swimming around in these environments is really. I've just never experienced swimming in a game that feels really like great. Like there's something weird about like that 3D navigation that I'm not a big fan of. But Abzu's still cool. I'm just like it's not my favorite. But Sword of the Sea I
Sure.
really liked. I'm really enjoying the Pathless. I think like the Pathless has like a really cool traversal thing
Mhm.
where it kind of reminds me a little bit of like the web swinging in Spider-Man. It's not the same. Like instead of but it's kind of got like this push and pull, and there's like an ebb and flow, and I actually really like that. It's kind of fun to just like rip around the landscape. sort of like shooting things with your arrows. So
Mhm.
the pathless is cool. I like it. I'm probably going to beat it here in the coming weeks because it's not supposed to be super long either. Um, but so I'm kind of fooling around with that. Also, fired up. It's been a minute since I got together with the squad, and so Deuce. Well, some new content had been released in Warhammer 40k Darktide, and Deuce
Okay.
picked up, like, it was a new class, so it's not like. And they apparently they did introduce a story mode, but the story mode is pretty much like it's just it's not really a story mode. Like, I don't. If you've played Warhammer 40k Darktide, you'll know what I'm talking about, and if you haven't, well, then you'll. It's like it's the game basically now gives you like certain missions to sort of unlock the different features, whereas like it would just kind of do that as you played the game. So now it's like now you have actually specific levels and missions that you need to beat, and that's the story mode. So yeah, whatever. But it's Darktide. It's cool. Like they're yeah, I don't know. It's kind of just you get in there, you do some, you know, you kill mutants or abominations or whatever, and it's just it's good old grimdark Warhammer 40k Dark Tide nonsense. It's I don't know. It's very much like there's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's kind of a different type of flow state game in the sense that like it's not super duper technical, and you kind of just get in there and you just run around with your squad and smash bad dudes, or even more bad dudes, because honestly in the Warhammer universe, I don't know if there really are good people. They're all kind of like, it's kind of gross the whole way down.
Sure.
But yeah, so that's kind of just what we're doing. So yeah, that's been kind of cool. Like I said, so haven't picked up anything. I'm really am trying to like hold fast to this. Like I'm really trying to get to -10, and then I
Mhm.
do have some stuff that I'm like, yeah, I'm sitting on some PlayStation Store credit that kind of it's burning kind of a hole in my pocket, but I'm gonna exercise a little bit of discipline, just a tiny bit. But yeah, I did use one of my flex points for Sword of the Sea, so that puts me at a -6,
Nice.
and so if anybody's curious as to what the numbers are when we were talking about some of this stuff, it's the Backlog Beatdown, which is a meta that we run all year long. It's basically a gamified. It's a bit of a meta game that's meant to help you think about acquisition and playing, and encourage you to play what you already own. If it sounds even a little bit, well, I'll give you a little bit of an overview here. The more you play, the more you subtract. So you want to get as low a score as possible, or you want to go into the negatives. The more you buy, the more you add. So think about adding to your backlog beatdown. It's not that hard, but the rules are a little more nuanced than that. And if you're interested in those, we have those over in the Discord, or you can reach out to me or Josh and we'll send you a copy of them. Or not. It's up to you. We like it. We've been doing it for a while. That being said, other things that we like and have been doing for a while and think that you might be interested in, it's this podcast. We like doing it. And if you like listening to it or like watching it or whatever, you can actually be cool like Alex and become a patron for as little as $1 a month. So you can get early and uncut access to each and every episode. You get a special role in our Discord and a little more access to just Josh and I as a general rule. You also get to help us shape the podcast a little bit more. There's a lot more sort of push and pull with the patrons. Like, we take feedback from them and we ask questions, and sometimes, sometimes they say things we don't like, but most of the time they're really cool. Most of the time. Alex, you've never said anything that I don't like. So I'm thinking
Doubt
about
that.
you,
I think you're
Paul.
just forgetting.
No. I just no. I was gonna throw shade at Paul, and I did. So, but it's anyways. But they also patrons, get to recommend a game or a topic for us to cover or play, like we like having them on, these guys, you know, so, and that's kind of what we're doing tonight, even though it was kind of like one of those things where I pitched it to Alex and I was like, what do you think of this? You want to hop on? And he was like, yeah. So but yeah, that's neither here nor there. They also are patrons. We recently added this. They get access to our calendar and schedule. They can see sort of what we've got coming up. And so they get a little bit of the inside baseball, kind of like behind the scenes kind of thing. In addition to that, they also get an exclusive podcast called The Bro Hang, which tends to be a lot more conversational. Sometimes our guests join us, sometimes they don't, but it's more of this with a lot less filtering. And sometimes we don't talk about video game stuff. But if any of that sounds appealing, or you're just looking for a way to sort of come alongside and help us, so partner with us in this, cool. We'd love to have you. That being said, do the rating and the reviewing, do the sharing and the caring, do all those things. And like I said, if you want to go a little bit above and beyond, that's a way for you to do it. That being said, we also are a proud member of the Play Well Network alongside our friends, Paul Lytle, Techno Funk Boy, Nick Porch, and Wesley Ray, the Henshin Dad himself. They each do podcasts and make content sort of exploring playing well. We like them, we like their stuff, and we think it's worth checking out. So here's a word from one of them.
Do you think that this is like a really close-up shot of two small crabs, or were those really big crabs?
How do you know they're even real?
They're imaginary crabs. Jimpleton, please tell me we can go look for imaginary crabs. Can we?
How would you look for something that's imaginary?
Oh, that's the best thing to look for. War has come to Krynn, a war building for centuries as dragons and gods drift into myth and legend. This is the war that will bring an end to it all, or restore what was lost for good. Dragonlance, The Thorns of War, is an actual play Dungeons & Dragons podcast. Available everywhere in May. Subscribe today.
And we're back. So tonight we're going to talk I've been trying to get Alex on the podcast for a while, but he is an effusive man, a bit of an elusive man. But he's also an absolute sweetie, ladies and gentlemen. And so, what kind of led me to this though was that over the last
weather's
couple years,
cooling down, and so you want to invite on the big chill.
Well,
is that it?
I mean, we would want to bring the big chill on when things are getting hot.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
And Alex, we have clarified why you have that nickname, right? That your initials are AC, so air conditioning. You are also like the chillest dude I've ever come across. Like you are fairly unfazable. Like I've never seen you get entirely out of pocket. Now, granted, we've only interacted in online spaces, so I'm sure that there's probably you were talking earlier, hey, as a kid, wanted to snap my controller in half or throw it through a wall or something. Which I'm like the
I was
fact that
definitely, I was definitely the kid that cried while playing video games because it was just too frustrating and you couldn't beat the level. I was definitely that kid. But
I was the kid.
I'm known to a lot of people as a pretty even keel guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I appreciate that about you because I am not even keeled. Like where you were the kid who was like, I don't want to snap my controller in half. I was the kid who was like, I snapped my controller in half. You do that once or twice. And then when you have to start replacing them, you're like, this is not fun.
Especially when a Switch 2 Pro controller costs $80 nowadays.
Oh my!
I mean, the prices of these things, they just keep going up. It's crazy.
I see what you're doing here, and I don't like it. But you're not wrong. One of the reasons, so I'll read the little bit of a blurb that I wrote, and I'm reading it because I actually think it's not terrible. But we all know that gaming is a luxury. Again, we know this, but it has gotten more expensive by hops and skips over the last couple of years. Game prices are rising, accessories are rising. The prices of consoles have been sort of on a pretty steady climb.
Mhm.
And well, maybe it's getting to be too much. Big Chill is big sad because it seems like he might be getting priced out of the hobby we all love. So we decided to talk about how that makes us feel. Um, and one of the things that, like, one, I have a lot of respect. Like, Josh is very sort of akin to you, and then the fact that like he's not an early adopter, and for I'd say for a while, neither was I, but like there's something about like the hype beast in me that just like I I kind of can't, like, I'm like, I want to be sometimes, not all the time, but far more often than not. I want to be like in on the conversation early on. I want to sort of be in the ground floor. And like, I know that that is just more expensive. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't get my PS5 day one, but I did get it fairly early on. I mean, not many people got PS5s on day one. That was a whole thing, right? But it's
Yep.
like, you know, and so it is kind of like this thing where it's like, you have in the Discord, you've talked about just sort of like the constant sort of trickling up of prices, and how you just do feel like you're kind of getting priced out of gaming. Now, you've also sort of mentioned the fact that you're a guy who like he's like, I'll wait for it to go on sale. I'll wait like
Yeah.
3-4 years, and when it's $20, then we'll pick it up. And so again, like, I think that requires a lot of control and discipline that frankly I'm a little envious of. And again, since I am a bit of a hype beast, and where Josh is a lot more akin to you, but like I think you even sort of like turn that dial up, that sort of like that patience and that thriftiness, maybe even a little bit more than Josh does. And so I thought that would be an interesting perspective. And you are an enthusiast. Like, you love video games. Like, no joke. I mean, and I know we talked a little bit about league stuff, but one of the things that always caught me like off guard, especially those first couple of years, and I've come to kind of expect it, is that you study games. Like, and maybe you're not, but like you have a fairly significant like knowledge base. Like, you are constantly pulling stuff out that I have no idea what's going. Like, I'm like, what is this thing that Alex is like? He's just like, I pulled this game, and it's like I've been kind of watching this for a while, and I'm like, what the heck is this? And I like to think of myself as somebody who's in the know. So it's like, you are an enthusiast. You love video games, but like, you've also sort of just like made decisions where it's just like, I'm not gonna, like, this is kind of the line, and I'm not gonna cross it. And so I think that's kind of an interesting place and an interesting space to examine and just have some candid conversation about it. And so it's like, you know I've kind of often said that, and I guess so where we'll start with this is that I've often said that, like, frankly, and I think Colin Moriarty is probably the loudest voice in this space, is that like games development, like, it only makes sense that the price of games goes up. Like, the price of games was really stagnant for like 15-20 years, where like it kind of hit $60 in like the 90s, and it just stayed there for a long time. And even though the market kind of jumped up and everything else, and, we've seen, you know, well, two price hikes in the last 3 years, where it goes from like a AAA game, that you can kind of expect them to come out at $70. And now, like, Nintendo drops Mario Kart World, and they're like, oh, and hey, it's $80, which pretty much everybody else in the industry breathed a sigh of relief, because they were like, somebody else, Nintendo can fall on that sword for us. Um, but like, what how would you respond to that? Like, I mean, again, and this is the thing, is like, I know you love video games. Like you are a student of the industry in a lot of ways. But again, like so when people like me or like Colin Moriarty say like, hey, like it's kind of inevitable and it kind of only makes sense. Where does that kind of leave you?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one thing to understand someone's viewpoints or the industry and where it's going. It's absolutely getting game costs are going way up,
Mm-hmm.
but game prices weren't going up in the same measure. So I do understand why things are going up now and could continue going up, and it wouldn't seem unreasonable for the price that these companies are putting in to make these games. But I'll go back a little bit to what you were saying before when you were talking about um, just how much people like to play games and how much you either want to be part of the zeitgeist or you don't,
Hmm.
or you have that need to be part of it, or it's not as strong for other people. And for me, I knew growing up my family wasn't going to be the family that had all the consoles, all the goodies,
Mm-hmm.
all the gizmos. We had to pick and choose. And I was okay with that. And I can go to my friend's house and play the latest and greatest. And you know what? It actually was nice because I knew that by the time I got something, I know exactly what I wanted. Because my friends played it, and I've gotten to play a couple hours of this in bits and pieces. But now I finally get to have it on my own. I get to sit down and play all day. I don't have to just share with my friends and hope my mom doesn't come to pick me up. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, too
and
early.
Hmm.
so
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was a
yeah.
little bit of an advantage when I was a kid. I remember going to my friend's house and playing Final Fantasy VII for the first time. I had no idea what it was, and every time I went to his house, I was like, "Can we play Final Fantasy VII?" And again, like, we played it already, and I was like, but it was so cool. And then so when I got the PlayStation, I got it in '98 for my birthday. It was one of the first things I knew I wanted to go get. Was like,
Yeah.
let me go get Final Fantasy. And actually, a really funny story is when I went to the store, Final Fantasy VIII had come out at that point. By the time I went to go get it, I guess it was '99 by the time I went to go get that game. So I said, eight? Eight's better than seven, right?
Oh
I'll get
Of
eight.
course.
no. Oh
And to be
no.
fair, I loved Final Fantasy VIII growing up. I loved it. I loved it.
Okay.
And, and only when you get older, you realize maybe it wasn't as timeless as Final Fantasy VII. But that's just a funny anecdote. But
Hmm. You get to
I,
shoot a
I was
dog
used
from
to
your
that.
arm? Sorry.
Well, yeah, yeah. I was used to that cycle of I was always 3 years late to the party.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when PlayStation 2 came out, I think I got it when I had first got a job and started saving up money, and I was a senior in high school, I think, and that's when I got it in like 2002, 2003. And then when PS3 came out, I think I didn't get that till like 2010 or something like that. So I've always been late to the party, but the advantage of waiting around a little bit used to be that costs came down. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't have to pay $5.99 or whatever PS3 was at launch, because when I got it, it was $300 and it came with a game and an extra controller, and I'm like, oh great. So that was kind of the advantage of waiting. And so as costs are rising, as prices are rising, I understand that, but the the notion that waiting to get a console, like right now, if I wanted to buy a PlayStation 5, it costs more
Yeah.
than it did in 2020, and where I was totally baffled by that. Even with the Switch, Nintendo
Hmm.
Switch, I was waiting for years for this thing to drop even $50, and it never did. Never did. And now it's actually more. It actually costs more now that the Switch 2 is out, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, Let's be honest. The Switch is not worth anything more now than it was in 2017. I don't care what inflation says. But so yeah, that's just the big difference. It's like
Hmm.
if the PlayStation 5 had come down in price, I'd be happy to jump on. I think it's easy to pay 30, 40, $50 for a game, but it's a lot harder sometimes to save up that bundle of money and throw something down for a new console, and that's where that barrier is right now, and that
Hmm.
Yeah.
barrier just seems to be climbing.
Yeah, and that I mean, to be fair too, you're right. They aren't going down. It was like, I mean, I remember the PS1, PS2 cycles. Like, I didn't own an original gray box. The first PlayStation I owned was that little slim PS1.
Mm.
Like, and that was like, I,
O-N-E.
I forget what, but I don't think I paid $100 for that. Like,
Hmm.
Yeah, it was like $99 or something. Yeah, yeah. Well, even when it first came out, yeah.
yeah, and it's like, and the first PS2 I owned was a slim. And again, it was like when the original PS2 debuted, it was like $150, $200 or something like that. I was like, I paid like $90, $100, and it's like, and
Hmm.
so it's, yeah, there was this sort of like cycle where it's like, hey, if you waited long enough, prices would come down, like, or you'd get like a new sort of streamlined version. And even when we got the PS5 Slim, it was like, everybody's kind of waiting for the like they did that for the PS4. Like the PS4 Slim, when it came out,
Exactly.
was like
That's when I got it.
$50 or $100 less. And yeah, and then it's like, but no, what you're gonna get is, and what I will say is like, the justification. My PS5 was like, that was my 40th birthday present to myself, or whatever. So it was like, that was like the big, like, I was like, okay, you only turned 40 once. Like, we're gonna, but then, a couple of years later, it's like, oh, well, Switch 2's out and there goes another $500. And it's like, but yeah,
You only turned 42 once, Nate.
you only turned 45 once, it's like, and the way that I sort of have justified it is like, it's like those years when it comes time for like a bigger expenditure, that's like, okay, it's like my birthday / Christmas present. It's like all the big stuff. Like, I'm just not like, I'm getting this one big thing, and that's gonna be it. Um, but yeah, it is kind of tough because it's like you said, even like the Switch, it's like you're expecting the Switch like to go down, and they're like, oh no, now they actually cost more than they used to. And that's, again, it's sort of, that the market is kind of like wild, but at the same time, that's just like, this feels like counterintuitive. And I
Hmm.
I do think part of it is like, companies just aren't willing to take losses on hardware at all anymore. We all know that, like, growing up, like, a lot of the hardware was sold at a loss. I think the biggest one was like the PS3 was sold at a massive, like, it was like, actually the PS3 was like, the more units they sold, the harder it hit them. Um, and that was at the 599 mark, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
and so, and especially with sort of like, I guess, like, the thing that has always sort of struck me, and kind of what, I guess where I'm going with this is, what's weird to me is that there's actually ways for these companies, like, these companies are more profitable than they've ever been. It's like, you read the financial reports, like, all of them are making more money. Like, Nintendo makes more money than they have year over year over year. Sony with PlayStation makes more money. Even Xbox, well, Xbox struggles. Um, yeah, but it's like Xbox, had some pretty good years there too, but it's like, especially with like digital marketplaces and everything else, where you can kind of capture people in this sort of, like, you have these walled garden economies, right? And it's like, so you can extract even more money, but it's like, even there, like, the tendency is just like, go bigger, extract more, go bigger, extract more. And it's, I think, like, kind of what you've been noticing as somebody again who sort of like just waits and does tend to be a little more judicial, a little wiser with how you want to sort of like, you know, deploy your money. It's like, dude, like it's just it almost doesn't make sense. The way that it's kind of like it keeps creeping up, like, and it's on, and too with like studios closing all the time, like you can't help but like sort of look at the state of the industry, and at the same time say like, you're closing all these studios, you're putting out these games that you want $70 or $80 out the gate at, right? You and at the same time, it's like this doesn't feel sustainable. And so all of this is just sort of like skyrocketing ahead. Meanwhile, there are a lot of people who just are like, who love the industry, who love video games, but are just kind of getting, well, left behind by just this rapid growth. And it's like, it's just been one of those things where I think it's easy to hear from people like me. It's easy to hear from people like Colin Moriarty, because like we're a vocal minority where it's just like, but frankly, I think yours is kind of the better path in a lot of ways, where it's like, you're just like, you're making sort of like principled decisions. We're just like, when, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like, I love this
Yeah.
hobby, but it is not necessary. And I want to sort of keep abreast, but it's also a lot harder to justify that at times. And
Yeah. And I also just think is this a large segment of the market that is getting overlooked or maybe forgotten in the conversation where, you know, like you were mentioning Colin, and he'll talk about how how gaming has always been a relatively expensive hobby. Hobbies in general are expensive. Once you
they're luxuries.
really want to dig deep into them, yeah, they become pricey. But video games, you know, being the thing that I know well, that can be an expensive hobby if you're trying to stay on the cutting edge. Like you're saying, he can talk about spending
Mhm.
$100 for Final Fantasy 3 all he wants. But the thing is, a year or two later, Final Fantasy 3 was probably $20 at Funko Land somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then everyone else had the chance to experience this game that everyone's been talking about for the last year or two. So, and it's funny how that same thing still happens with games. Games will be discounted, and they'll go on sale. But consoles were just not, are not having that. I mean, and it could be very much an adjustment to where the industry has been going over the past few years, and maybe it was stagnating, like you said, and now it's just adjusting to where the new level will be, and people will figure it out. But I think to say, hey, games are expensive, you gotta get on board. That's just what it is. Well, that's fine, except not everybody goes to the movies on opening night and watches a million movies. Plenty of people are happy waiting till you could rent them, at Blockbuster or now on streaming services. Or how many people didn't even do that and just waited years until it was the movie of the week on, ABC or something, and that's when they finally saw the movie. I mean, there's always been tiers of in the demographic. There's always been different tiers of interest and tiers of affordability,
Mhm.
and I would hate to see video games approach this area where only people who are either have plenty of money or are willing to save and scrounge for a long time are able to get in the door. Or now we're looking at these handhelds that people are talking about, and these things are upwards of $1,000, and they're
Right.
talking about the next generation consoles and how they might be. I mean, some reports are saying, oh, it might be a little scaled back. Other reports are saying it could be more expensive than what we've experienced in the past, and I'm just like, wow, I don't really know what it is I'm supposed to look forward to.
Mhm.
If at this point, I'm still playing on mostly a PlayStation gamer, so I have a laptop, but it's very modest, so it plays like little
Sure.
indie games or whatever. But I'm still on PS4, and don't get me wrong, there's plenty to play.
Mhm.
I can probably go another 5 years, 10 years without experiencing all I've wanted to experience in this game, out there. But a lot of the big first party stuff is kind of passing me by right now,
Mhm.
and I don't know when they're gonna afford me the opportunity to jump in without without handing over a paycheck to them and saying like
Right.
Yeah.
this is what it
Yeah.
takes for me to get in. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
It's interesting too to see that from the different, kind of the big three and stuff like that, because I completely agree with you that it's ridiculous that the Switch, costs more nowadays than it did when it first was
right.
released. Um, I'd say at least in Nintendo's, like, I think what they're doing makes business sense because they have this other SKU of the Lite, the Switch Lite, that if you really want to play Switch games, you can get in that way. So it does have another tier. And frankly, I think them increasing the price of the Switch, no matter what they've said, why, tariffs, whatever, it's a little harder to get parts, which no, it's not. Like I don't believe that. I
It's
think
so
they're
hard to
trying to
get these incredibly old, outdated parts.
that we've sold millions and millions and millions of already.
Right.
Right.
not to mention the fact
I
that
think
they probably have millions of units stateside currently waiting to be sold.
yeah.
Like, so
I
like,
think business wise, they're just trying to push you to switch to is what that's really all about. And so it seems to me, so why do say Sony or Microsoft, why don't they discount their consoles? And that's an interesting question I hadn't thought about before, because in the past, I would think that it would be a reaction to market conditions that when their sales numbers start cooling off, then you lower the price to get more out there. Basic supply and demand of people are going to buy it more. The Super Nintendo 2 version, was $99 and it came with a game and I want to say an extra controller. I don't know. But it was cheaper because it was kind of the tail end of the Super Nintendo life cycle because they wanted to, get people in that way. And so it makes sense. That makes sense to me why you would gradually lower the price of these consoles is because you want it to keep selling. I'm not sure that right now that's a necessity. I don't know as far as PS5 sales numbers. I don't keep up with that. I can't imagine that Xbox Series is doing very well. So I don't know why those aren't discounted further. With Nintendo, I don't think they really have an incentive to lower the price because they're still, I mean, Switch was always a hot seller, and even now Switch 2 is selling really well overall. So I don't foresee any like lowering of prices. That I don't see that being necessary. Maybe a Switch 2 Lite, a couple years down the road, but I don't know. That seems to have worked for them. I'm not sure, but it is interesting to think about why was it done in the past and why haven't they continued? Because it seems to me like you would sell more consoles if you gradually lowered the price. But maybe I'm also just more in that demographic that's more price sensitive now.
I think though too, sort of what you I think you kind of hit it without saying it, is that the market used to be the market. Gaming was not like gaming now makes more as a market makes
Hmm.
more money than film, television, and music combined.
Hmm.
Right? This is like we've seen the stats. It probably also spends a lot more than some of those markets. But I think also like the fact is like, the Switch and the Switch 2 are still selling like hotcakes. The PS5s are still rolling off the shelves at a decent clip.
Okay.
There's not enough of a downturn in the market to where they feel the need. Like, because like, yeah, there is
Hmm.
sort of like this sort of incentive where it's like, hey, maybe we've kind of hit like everybody we can at this point in time, and we're really starting to see like sales trickle. I do think like the economic like inflation doesn't help. It's like they don't want to sell these units at a loss. Period. I do think they run tight margins on all that, but I do think it's basically that there's still enough demand that they can justify the price. Like, and
Yeah.
that kind of sucks because it's like, the reality is like, it's like, will the will the PS5 get a price reduction when the PS6 comes out? Probably not, or if it does, it'll, and again, because like that's the other part of it. Like one of the justifications has always been like, hey, like the technology has been fairly streamlined at this point. Like we can actually make these things cheaper and just as effectively. And so like, yeah, again, we sort of drop the price point on that to make, to make entry a little more affordable. But I would just sort of say, I think the biggest problem is that the supply is consistent enough that they don't feel like there's any upside to that. I would also sort of say, I think one of the things in this kind of is that a lot of these consoles, especially the last generation or two, have been iterative in the sense that like Xbox has backwards compatibility all the way back to the original Xbox, to 360, to One, to the series. Like now, granted, it's not perfect. I don't think all Xbox games, OG Xbox games work with the series, but like you have that, and then the PS4 and PS5. Like the PS5 is backwards compatible and can play PS4 games, right? The Switch 2 and the Switch. I think that some of it is like the mitigate, like that is like it is a bigger jump to get on board, but they're kind of justifying that and saying like, well, like all your old stuff comes forward too, and so it's like that kind of like that again. That's sort of like one more thing where like they don't necessarily feel like they have to incentivize it because they're like you're even sort of the way that in a lot of ways like PS5, yes, I think we're seeing there is some stuff that isn't playable on PS4, but like a lot of the first party titles up until recently were available on PS4. Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, those things, again, they were playable. And some people like me were like, these games are actually being held back because they are only, they are cross generational,
Sure.
but yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, it is kind of like this, there is kind of I think the biggest thing though is like, the question is like, why aren't they sort of doing it? Is like, because they don't have to, in the sense that like these things are still moving enough numbers that it's not a concern to where they need to feel like they need more people,
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that's probably your strongest point, your strongest argument for why the prices would stay consistent is by you saying that everything that you had on PS4 you have when you jump to PS5, the way these
Mm-hmm.
digital libraries stay with you. I think that is true. I mean, in the past you'd be starting fresh, or now
Mm-hmm.
you're not. You very much have everything you had before plus all the new things you're able to purchase. So that's probably I think a really good argument for why these things are worth more and don't necessarily lose as much value maybe. As
But
far as how much they're selling and the rate at which they're selling, I mean, I know that PS5, like if you listen to like the Circana data every month or whatever, the PS5s are selling at a slower rate than PS4s were.
mm-hmm.
And they're only trailing by a little bit. But PS4 went down in price and PS5 hasn't yet. So
Yeah.
it can't only be that. It can't only just be, well, PS5 is still selling plenty. because PS4 was selling even better, and then when
But
they
again,
introduced the Pro and the Slim and everything, and they cut the price for that. But so there's
well,
probably multiple factors, but
the
yeah,
economy's looking at the PS4 Pro though, or the PS4. The economy was in a much better shape, like period.
right,
But also like the tech stream was a lot more refined. And so like again, it was you sort of have that like the economy was pretty stable, but then you have it's like, hey, we can just make these things cheaper. And so it's like and we kind of got used to the mid life cycle console refresh. And I think that it was like that happened a couple times. Um Notably like PS2, PS3 and PS4 all did that. Like a PS1 did too, technically, especially in PlayStation camps, where it's like, hey, here's the new shiny version. It's a little cheaper. It's just as good, maybe even a little bit better. Have fun. And I think this time, the fact that the global economy is just borked, um, doesn't help anything. But I do
yeah,
think that we're still sort of in a lot of ways at the front end of this tech, where it's like, yes, they are making like the silicon a lot thinner, there are a lot cheaper, but like, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get into the economics of it. What I would say is I just think it sucks. Like, that like I love my PS5, but like, I was also pretty happy with my PS4. But it's like it is kind of unfortunate that we haven't sort of hit that midlife refresh rate, or that mid-cycle refresh where it's like, oh hey, like okay, it's time to like maybe start, like for the people who were like the later adopters or the slower cells, like it's time to sort of bring them on board. And then maybe that's sort of a bit of a signal for people who are gearing up for the next iteration. I mean, that's even a lot of the talk where like, there are rumors that the PS5 is going to be coming out soon, or the PS6 is going to be announced soon. And I'm I'm excited about it, especially kind of hearing having heard some of the things I've heard is that they're actually looking at making this one a lot more affordable than the PS5,
yeah.
which would actually kind of follow suit. Like PS2 is fairly affordable, PS3 fairly expensive. So they sort of, again, they sort of flip the script. PS4 is a lot more approachable, a lot more user friendly or dev friendly, and a lot more affordable. PS5, it's more of a bigger jump in tech. It's a little pricier. It's a little more whatever boutique. Oh, dude,
Hmm.
the PS5, well, so the PS3 was the cell structure architecture. The PS5, it was the hard drive format, that the ultra fast SSD stuff that they basically rewrote that. Mark Cerny and those guys, like it's an engineer. It was at the time, it was an engineering feat. Like it was like it was kind of like the reason to. But so I'm hopeful. Was it the guy from is it Broken Silicon or
Yeah. Moore's Law
he
or Moore's Law is
Moore's
dead or whatever.
yeah, Moore's Law is dead. He really does think that um the next PlayStation is going to be a lot more affordable than the PS5. Um just economies of scale and everything else, but who knows. But yeah, so I mean, even sort of looking at that though, and sort of like I did want to just, does that, in thinking about that though, it's like saying, okay, like hey, I guess the thing is like I know that like the price point is painful, but that the consideration, does the consideration that like hey, like my library is going to move forward, like does that help mitigate some of like the sting, like when you're thinking about it, you're like yeah, like you're like
I suppose. I guess so. It's it was already a known quantity. It wasn't like it was a
yeah.
surprise to learn that. So I guess.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
So
I think. Go ahead,
I've
Josh.
got a question, but it kind of takes it in a different direction. So if Nate, you had something else you wanted to.
No,
Okay.
no.
So we've talked about the console space and the price of consoles, how it hasn't gone down, how it's only gone up and stayed up, and in some cases even risen for the same consoles, which is crazy. But in terms of games have gotten more expensive, by and large. Maybe not all of them, but by and large. And I think also we're coming upon this that we've been talking about for 2 decades now, this digital future, where a lot more games have different forms of digital only, whether that's, key cards or whatever you want to, all that stuff that's happening in games. Does any of that give you pause when you're thinking about even just future purchases? Because you are you're in an interesting position that Nate had mentioned earlier, that you're really knowledgeable about games, but not even just about games themselves, like a bunch of retro nerds are. Like I'm one of those retro nerds. But you keep your ear to the ground with new games, and Nate was talking about this too. Like you're really good at
Yeah.
the league and stuff like that. Whereas I don't as much in the here and now, in the future speculation. I'm much more looking back. So does looking at the future, or even let me throw this out, Donkey Kong Bonanza is out for $80, and then within a month it has DLC. Does stuff like that give you pause for, I don't know, when you
Yeah.
might be
No,
looking at
absolutely.
getting a Switch 2 in 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, especially with the understanding that most Nintendo first party games are not really
Yeah.
going to drop in price at all.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, if you wait too long, they just go up in price because they're hard to find after a while.
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when games were $50 and you would wait for them to be, as a thrifty shopper, someone who always has
Mhm.
a modest budget for games, and if you're waiting
Yeah,
for them to be half price or something like that before you jump on board, then you're basically waiting for them to be $25, right?
sure.
And if the price is 60, then now half price becomes 30. The price is 70,
Mm-hmm.
half price becomes 35. Price is 80, yeah, basic math, right? So it's like, I mean, we understand that obviously inflation is affecting what the dollar is worth
Sure.
also,
Yeah.
but still,
Mm-hmm.
when I think what happens is, I think that, I guess there's two ways to think about it. There's the completely logical way to look at dollars and cents, and you can sit down and read your economics handbook and learn about why inflation happens and why price go up and why. But then there's also the reality of, someone hands you $100 for your birthday, and you're like, I know what I can do with this $100.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then a few years pass, and you can do half as much with that $100.
Right.
And
Right.
there's just
Yep.
the emotional component for me. And my
Yes.
wife makes fun of me all the time because I've become the old man who's just like, remember when this was half the
Yep.
price,
Uh-huh.
And it's just
Taco Bell taco was $1, dang it. Now the
right,
cheapest thing you can get is $3. What the heck?
exactly. And so
Yeah.
it's just, I feel that emotional weight of like, man, I used to be able to reserve a certain amount of money and know what to expect with that money. And now I feel like I have to reserve so much more just
Mm-hmm.
to enjoy the equivalent thing. And so, yeah, games are a component of that. Um, you were talking about digital stuff, not being able to resell, go to
Mm-hmm.
GameStop, trade in games, and help save money in that way. Sure. Um, I'm not necessarily opposed to the digital future. I am a little
Okay.
skeptical and hoping that there are enough people out there trying to preserve, these titles for many years to come, that we're not just going to lose out on things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not super scared of digital games, especially because a lot of
Okay.
times Steam or the PS Store or whatever, it's
Mm-hmm.
just that's where you're gonna find the best deals. So I don't
Yeah.
Yep.
mind jumping on there and just grabbing a game when it's $8.99 and say, well, I'm
Okay.
getting it now.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah. But yeah, I don't know if there was anything else I wanted to say there, but yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
Cool.
Well, so we've talked about that, and and again, I don't want this to just be like a state of the industry, like but it's what. So we've kind of bemoaned the fact that, like, yeah, it just like prices are kind of going up across the board, and it just kind of sucks. What what do you think could the answer be here? Like, that is sort of workable for both of them. I mean, like what do you think the fix is? You know what I'm saying? Where it's like we like obviously like budgets are just out of control with some of these, especially with the AAA games like um GTA 6 or whatever is coming out is rumored to have $1 billion budget, which like just even
Yeah.
that number just is like bleh. um and they'll make all that money back and then some. But
Okay.
it's just kind of like, well, but they've probably already made that money back, with like all the microtransaction junk. But like, what do you think the solution is, Alex? Like, or I guess like sort of like
Yeah.
something that's a
If,
little healthier, but
yeah.
also,
If you're looking for me to solve the problem, I don't know if I can do that. I mean, I do agree that a lot of these AAA gaming budgets are probably ballooning a little past what will ultimately be sustainable. I think there's a learning curve associated with that. I think,
Yeah.
if you look at like movie budgets or that they probably experience a similar thing where the movie budget grows because they know that the return is gonna be so great, and then all they have to do is experience a few instances where the return isn't what they expected, and what do you know, now the sequel to that movie becomes the budget's half.
Hmm.
And so I would expect that game companies, because it takes so long to make a game. I mean, I think right there is probably the first thing that we're going to experience is like, I think there has to be a changing of the tide as far as waiting 6 or 7 years for the next game from a studio. I don't see that being
Hmm.
sustainable for very long. I don't know if we'll ever go back to getting games 1, 2, 3 years later, but there must be some sort of middle ground there. And maybe it comes through middleware or large language model things or whatever. But I would assume that there's some sort of middle ground there. And if we can stabilize gaming budgets, let's say at 100 million, or whatever the equivalent of 100 million will be a decade from now,
Hmm.
um, then we can expect games to come out more regularly. And who knows? I don't know. I would imagine that would help in some way, because there's not. I mean, you're gonna have the people who want to chase the GTAs of this world and try to make the next one, and then they
mhm,
will fail. But
yeah.
yeah, there's not too many games where you can just pour endless amounts of money into it and then expect to get it back. And I don't know what you hope to get out of those kinds of games.
Well, I mean, I think what they're hoping to get is like, I mean, it's pretty telling that that the bulk of like gaming's revenue is generated by like 5 games.
Yeah.
And they're
Sure.
all like perpetually online. And I think everybody's sort of like it's actually kind of funny because I think Microsoft and Xbox is sort of a microcosm of like gaming in general. It's in the sense that like Xbox, when it was smaller and scrappier, could be like kind of bold and mouthy and do like kind of wild things and be really disruptive, right? Like Game Pass was initially like hyper disruptive. Like, and people like old guards like me and Micah, we were freaking out and like, this can't be good for the industry. It's like this is not good. What we're kind of like losing our minds and like this is gonna ruin everything. Um, maybe that was a bit of an overreaction on our part, but it's like it's definitely like not sustainable long term, right? And we would just kind of like beat on that drum and all of these other things, but then it is one of those things where Xbox could do that one because they had a massive war chest in micro behind as being a Microsoft company, and so they could just kind of like throw money at problems. But like when the ABK acquisition happened, like all of a sudden, like it's like the I call it the Eye of Satya, was upon them, and like all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, so you have a quarter where Microsoft or Xbox Gaming makes more than Windows does, and all of a sudden it's like now it's like I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with the news, where it's like, dude, I think Microsoft's intended projections for Xbox is to generate 30% or to have a 30% profit increase or something like that. And it's like this is in a market where Microsoft is like, or Xbox has been struggling as far as like console presence. Now they are moving more to like, this explains like the third party publisher kind of move and all that other stuff. But I think basically what happens is like they get a taste of like that big money, right? And so it's like The Last of Us hits and it moves like 20 million units or something like that, right? And it's just like these big hits where all of a sudden it's like, instead of a game where you were expecting to make maybe 150, 250 million, you make 5 or 6 or 700 million dollars. You know, you make an obscene amount of money off these things. And all of a sudden it's like, well, we need to repeat that, and we need to repeat that, and we need to repeat that. And I do think to just like you said, Alex, at some point in time, like it's going to like we're going to have enough failures where people are going to get like a little more careful. But frankly, I think that sort of like having the fact that these companies are publicly traded and they have investors that want immediate returns instead, and not just like hey, we're making money, and maybe it's not like, maybe it's only like a 2% revenue hike. You know what I'm saying? It's like nobody wants the modest returns. Everybody just wants to like run this thing until basically we're going to run this thing until it stops stops moving. And I think what needs it, like, I think even what you were saying is like we do need more sustainable models. We need to temper, like we need investors to temper their expectations and sort of understand that they're investing, but it's not immediate returns and things like that. I mean, yeah, because like here's the thing, dude. I want the market to be healthy, and I think what you're saying without saying it is that it's not. The fact that people like you who do tend to be on the more conservative side and who do sort of be the fact that you feel like you're priced out is actually a problem, because you are a core gamer, like you are a diehard, like you're in it, like but it's like it's kind of okay, it's kind of like the conversation we had before we started recording, where it's like, we talk about like the pain points in like Silk Song and Hollow Knight, and like the friction there. It's like the friction has actually, like the friction is exists between your financial obligations and your wallet, and you're like, I can't justify those sacrifices. I can't, like, whether whatever the reasons are, right? And I actually think it's a problem for the industry when people like you are saying like, I can't keep up, like, and not because like, hey, it's not like, oh, I'm poor and I can't afford it. It's like I can't justify that. And I think that
Right.
boxes a really important demographic out, like,
Yeah, and I
so.
think you see that a lot of different ways too. I think there's probably a good portion of people who, instead of, buying less often or whatever, they're just gonna turn toward games that are like free to play or towards those kinds of options where they don't have to worry as much about those things. They can pay for a new map or a new skin whenever they feel like it, but otherwise they're happy to stay where there is still new things happening. It's still new communities and new events and new stories happening all the time, but it's just happening at a game that's 10 years old or whatever. So I think that could be what you see other people doing as well, instead of the core gamer demographic who's trying to play first party titles. There are probably plenty of people who are happy to just stay in Fortnite or stay in wherever, and say, well, I guess this is where I'm gonna spend my time when I want to explore my gaming fun. That's where they'll be. And I think to answer what you're talking about with me seeming to be, I still keep my ear on the industry and stuff like that. And I think that's part of how I've expressed answering the lack of opportunity, where it's like if I can't play everything, then at least I want to hear other people tell me about what they're experiencing. I will listen to
Yep.
gaming podcasts. I will follow blogs and sites and review sites and things like this, and get my fill that way of the industry. This way I can kind of get a piece of the story, at least if I can't experience it all myself, because I mean there are way too many games coming out anyway. There's no way I can play everything.
Right.
So I mean there is a little bit of an obsessive part of me of just wanting to know everything all the time, and
Sure.
just never being satiated in that way. But I think a lot of it is that, well, I'm not playing the PS5 games, but I can listen to a PlayStation podcast and they'll talk about what's going on, and at least I can be part of the gaming culture in that way.
Yeah. That's cool. I think that's a great place to kind of wind down, is instead of just the, what's your diagnosis for the gaming landscape in general, for you personally, what does that look like as the consoles have gotten expensive and stayed there, games have gotten more expensive by and large, and it's kind of in this weird place of there's no standard price, which is fine, but by and large more expensive. Has it simply, in terms of you, like how you've reacted to this, obviously one is like you haven't bought, that's not a word, you haven't bought like current gen consoles because of the price, okay. And in terms of the games that you are buying, because you mentioned you're playing Silksong, so does it just look like you're still continuing to look for those deals, they're just fewer and farther between, or they're older games,
Yeah.
or you're going for more indie games? Like, what does it look like for you right now and today, and for the I'd say next few months, or even as you plan out 2026, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, for me it's exactly that. It's me. There are fortunately still some games that come out for PS4 or for Switch One right now. There's still some that will come out. I mean, a lot of them right now are smaller titles,
Sure.
so that's fine. But like you mentioned, Silksong, that's a nice opportunity to be part of something that's huge, but that I can still be a part of. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where I'm at. Is if there's a game coming out that I can play that's new, great. Still probably will wait for it to be on sale or something like that. And otherwise, yeah, I go back and I look at some games that I haven't had a chance to finish yet. I go back and look at people's favorite games of all time and say, well, I've never actually played that. Let me go find that somewhere, because it's got to be cheap by now. And you could fill up that gaming backlog. It's kind of the opposite of what you guys are hoping for, which is to you know beat down the backlog. I'm kind of building mine by experiencing at least other things. But
Yeah.
I'm experiencing them at a much cheaper cost. I'm not buying them when they're new. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I think it's actually conducive to what we're doing here in terms of just like trying to play the games that you already own. Is that's another
right.
factor when it comes to, determining if are you going to spend $80 on a game and then $30 on DLC a month later. I don't know if that's the actual price, but that's what it feels like sometimes.
Mhm.
Is okay, do I have something similar like that in my backlog? Am I only if I'm honest, am I really just excited about this because it's new and it's shiny? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I know for me that's helped hold off on some purchases as well, even as things get more popular. Or like I mentioned earlier, we have a cool library, so I can check out games there, which is
Yeah,
helpful
that's
to get a
awesome.
taste of some of the newer stuff. And I'm just surprised that they have newer stuff, but I know it helps me kind of temper that. And again, as I mentioned, like looking forward to 2026, yeah, there are a couple games that I'm looking forward to that I might pick up early at not such a high discount, or even I can't think of any that I'm like, oh, I have to buy this day one off the top of my head. But the budgeting for, two new games in the year, and then most of the other ones are going to be, when I see Live Alive on sale for $20, okay, I'll pick that up, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I think it actually works in tandem really well. Just don't go too far where I was at for years of like, oh, everything's $10, so let me buy 80 of them, and now I
That
have
is
a
the trap.
stupid
That is
backlog.
the trap.
Yeah.
You always have $10 in your pocket. You know what I mean? So
Right.
you just have to try not to
Yes.
Yeah.
just keep slapping that down every 3 days.
Yeah, then you
Yeah, man.
spend the whole price of a new console
Yeah,
on.
yeah. I mean, for sure. There's if I was patient enough and literally was just putting some money aside that I could use to buy a game that was on sale, I technically could afford to get a
Sure.
PS5 by now. It's not
Yeah.
like I can't. It's just it like I was mentioning before, that emotional component of actually having
Yes.
to
Yes. Yeah.
pay that much money at
Oh,
one time. So it's much easier to
$500 is
say
like a
like what's on
mortgage
sale.
payment
Hmm.
or a
Yeah,
car
yeah.
payment.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Nate, how about you? Do you have any thoughts on how this kind of changes? How does the rising cost of games, how does that affect you?
Well, I mean, it's sort of like I think next year it's just going to be I'm actually kind of going to be doing a bit of a detox cuz
Okay.
it's one of those things where I mean, we say it all the time. It's like but we've I mean, Alex, you even said it. It's like there's so many games to play. Like I have a backlog of hundreds of games and it's like I and I just came off I've come off a like and it's hard because it is really one of those things where every year that we're playing it to me just feels like this is possibly one of the best years in gaming. Like it's just like it's kind of like the opposite of the Office Space problem where it's like every time you see me it's the worst day of my life. It's like every year that we're playing games, man, it actually just does feel like it just kind of always gets better. Like there's more stuff coming out. There's like, and I do tend to sort of be like a bit of a varied gamer. Like I kind of like to be all over the place. You know, I like to have a foot in a bunch of different genres and like I like the big sizzle. I like the big flashy crazy experiences. I love AAA stuff, but I also like small really heartfelt indie stuff. I mean, like
Hmm.
I was talking about like I just played Sword of the Sea and that's like a pretty low key game. And now it was like bigger in the sense that it did get a lot of like buzz and it was on PS Plus
Sure.
extra or whatever and it was on game I think it's on Game Pass as well. But it's like so I love that, but I also like freaking Spider-Man. And you know what I'm saying? Like it's like
Mm.
I'm all over the place. And I think for me, there's just been a challenge. And even one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you in specifically, Alex, is that you've made a very conscientious choice to conscientious. I get a little bit of mush mouth. but you've made like a decision and kind of a principled stand. And yes, you sort of say like just like the emotional sort of like feedback. You're like, I just can't. But I think there's wisdom in that, and just being like, like even just sort of like saying like, I don't need it. And so like this is kind of like the thing is like I'm I am a hype beast. Like I'm kind of like I want the new and the shiny. Like, and I like to be a part of the conversation. And but I do think like I've got like a bajillion things to play. Like, and it's okay to like step back. And I think too, like honestly, it's kind of like you have to be the change that you want to see. I think frankly, like the industry needs a little bit of like a reality check. And if I'm
Sure.
one less dude who's like throwing, you know, you know, a bunch of money, and honestly, over the years, like my spending has gotten significantly better. Like I think like when I first got the PS4, man, I was constantly in that store, or I was constantly buying games, like constantly adding to the pile. Um, There, even like my PS3, like when I got my PS3, it's like that digital storefront. I was like constantly just like, oh, it's like it's on sale. It's on sale. I'm gonna buy this for
Mm-hmm.
$10, and I'm gonna buy that for $10, and I'm gonna buy that for $20. I'm gonna buy this for 30, and it's like, next thing you know, it's like, wow, I could have just bought a brand new console. Like,
Yeah.
and so I have gotten better, but it's like it is really just it's kind of like it's kind of like Marvel Snap, okay, in the sense that one of the things that that game does, and I think one of the things that gaming does, is it kind of like there's always something new, there's always something more, and you do kind of get in this like treadmill where it's like I've got to keep up, I've got to keep up, and the reality is you can't. And I'd much rather sort of just be like sort of a peaceful, sort of contented abandonment of the rat the hamster wheel, where it's just like, no, I'm gonna. So like I said, I think next year I'm really gonna try to just do a pretty significant detox. I'm actually gonna try to not buy anything and just prioritize playing what I already have. And like, well, I mean, we'll see, and maybe I'll adjust it. But I do kind of like think that it's like it's okay to like take a step back and breathe, because it's just yeah, yeah. So
Cool.
that's kind of like I said, one of the reasons I want to have Alex on was because like I do admire that position. I don't
Mhm.
do it.
Yeah. I mean, I even credit you guys, listening to you guys talking about stewardship, stewarding your time,
Hmm.
your finances, having priorities in place, always family first and responsibilities, taking these things out of the way before, enjoying that recreation time. That's helped me. You've reminded me at times to be like, hey, am I prioritizing myself in the right way? Am I putting too much
Mm,
emphasis on this hobby? Wherein I should be, I mean, there's plenty of things we can do with money, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
is it more valuable for me to take a little bit of money that I have and use it towards something in the home or something, for my
Sure.
family, or maybe something my wife is looking to have, I can bless her with that instead of saying,
yeah,
well, what can I get for it? So I do appreciate you guys and the podcast that you guys have, and how you've talked about these things. It always reinforces those concepts for me too. So
Hmm.
it goes both ways.
yeah.
Oh
Well,
shucks.
oh shucks. Yeah, you're gonna make me blush, man. Um, you already made Josh blush. I can see. Um, but no, I've been really grateful for this conversation, and
Oh,
just sort of like, and like I said, it is, I think the biggest thing for me is like I am a hype beast, and so I do like I get excited about the new and shiny, and yeah, it is pretty easy, I think, when we're talking about the industry, to sort of like fall into like, oh, here's just the math of it, and this is just the practical realities. But like I said, it's like even sort of yeah, I mean, during this conversation, but even before this conversation, it was just like kind of like, oh yeah, like there are people who are just kind of getting left behind by the cycle. And and again, just like because it's moving too quickly, and it's it's not growing responsibly or reasonably. I don't know, but anyways, and I'm just like that's a good check for me, because there is that kind of like, when you're on this side of like that kind of cycle, it's like you kind of expect everybody and think everybody else should be doing that. You know what I'm saying? And you need that's almost like that reality check. Like, hey, that's actually like, you've kind of got the cart before the horse here, friend. So I appreciate, again, that voice, that sort of like that kind of like, hey, like, and you do it very graciously, but just like when we've talked about this in the different, like in the league chat or in our Discord or whatever, when we're talking about like gaming and stuff, it's like I said, it's very easy for me to just go like hype beast mode, where I'm just like, yeah,
Right.
more, faster, better, go, and then it's like, and then I see my homie sort of saying like, man, like I can't keep up. And it's like, like this is too much, man. And I'm like, oh yeah, it probably is, you know. Um, and so yeah, but yeah. So does that answer your question, Josh?
It does. It does.
Okay.
No, I appreciate that perspective as well. But yeah, I think that's a good place to. I'm trying to think of a different metaphor. I feel like we always say land the
Say
plane.
land the plane, baby.
Yeah, that's a good tarmac we've rolled out here. But before we get going, we do have a few forms that we like to observe. There you go. The first of which is just a shout out. So, I mean, as we've said before, but Alex, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. I'm glad that we finally were able to have you on, because I don't know, I don't know how much of it we've done recorded in front of a microphone, but we have said multiple times, just Nate and I, that we wanted to have you on for different things, because as he said, you're always so gracious in the way that you interact with everyone in our little community and the other ones that we're a part of. And so it's always been so much fun. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being here. And thanks for sharing your perspective with us, because it is a good little gut check as well. But it's just been fun.
Dude.
Absolutely.
And it
Yeah.
was a great excuse to have you on, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so.
Well, I'm not exactly the kind of person who thinks they have a lot to say. I don't know if I have a lot to say. So it's like, this was a topic because it was so personal that I mean, I can talk about it for sure. I'm not sure how much I have to say, but it was less intimidating, I would say, than maybe something else. So I was happy to be able to answer the call this time around.
Dude, and yeah, I think I even made sort of like, it was like, it's, with you, I was anticipating quality over quantity, and I think you provided both here, Alex.
We've gotten
so
both. Yes.
don't sell yourself short, friend.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, speaking of participation and continuing with quantity, do you have any shout outs that you would like to give, Alex, before we give ours?
Me? Oh, I'll shout you guys out.
No.
Again, this podcast is fun. It's a lot of fun to listen to. It's a little weird, I'm sure, for other people to be caught up on what's going on in your lives when you're not really actually a part of my life. But I do get to listen to you guys chit chat and have a friendship, and if I can be even a tiny piece of that, I'm happy to be a part of that. Growing up, there wasn't. I don't know about you guys. When I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of people who played video games who were interested in the things I was interested in. It was pretty much, hey, you either like football and basketball, or you can go home. It's like, okay, I guess I like that too then. And I like sports, but it's cool as we got older and the internet became a thing, and we can find communities of people who like these specific things that we like. It's awesome to be a part of that, and the way that you guys have started and fostered a community here, it's really great. So shout out to you guys.
Ha.
Thanks, man.
Well, thank you. I
And thank you
appreciate
for
that.
being a part of that. You
Yeah.
know, like,
Sure.
yeah, man, dude. Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. Love being bros. It's good times. Let's see. I guess I'll share my shout out, and then Nate, you can go. I wanted to shout out Techno Funk Boy with my recent travels and things like that. I have been even less present in our communities lately. But one thing that Techno Funk Boy had shared was a video, and it might have been in more of like a private chat, but I know Nate, you were there also. But he shared a video, and this is music related, it's an interview of this guy. What's his first name? Is Chris, right? Yeah, Chris
Thile.
Thiele, I think his name is.
Thiele.
I think it's pronounced Thiele, but he's the mandolin singer in Nickel Creek and in Punch Brothers. And it is a crazy interview because he is very energetic and he's like bouncing off the walls, but he is also an insanely talented musician. So it was fun to watch through that. I was watching actually just earlier today because I was like, oh yeah, that's right, you shared that, and I hadn't gotten back to that. So
You
anyways,
can tell I didn't watch the video because I didn't say the dude's name.
well, I mean, yeah, it's not a common last name, but that one's a lot of fun. If you are a music nerd and enjoy like some deep musicianship from and are not put off by very eccentric people, then I would encourage you to check it out. Anyways, Techno Funk Boy, thank you for sharing that. It's a lot of fun. So
Yeah. I had some shout outs, but I was sort of thinking about it, and I'm going to just like sort of do a little bit of a pivot, and I'm going to shout out our patrons. Alex, of course, you're one of them. But I did want to shout out like our community. We don't do patron appreciation that often. But I did just kind of want to go down the list and just sort of offer a hail and hearty thank you for
your
hanging
patronage.
out and paying us and all that other stuff. Like, and I definitely like you more when you give me money. But let's just kick it off. Starting out here, we got Micah Gear Solid. We've got Wesley Ray, the Henshin Dad himself, Paul Lytle, the Techno Funk Boy, the Trash Turkey, Dorian, All Your Basement Are Belong to Us, Aaron Cal, the Caveman Lawyer, Mark Kozlowski, not Quick Mark, but the other Mark. We've got Alex Castellanos, the Big Chill himself. We've got Porcho, the Wonder from Down Under. We've got Nate Foot, the Imposter Nate, also known as Spike. We've got Quick Mark from Mark Erickson. We've got Sojourner. We've got Push Broom 101. That's my buddy John. We've got the Boulder, the boldest of the Boulder Boulders, which that name. It made me laugh back in the first time I heard it back in the TRG days, and I love it. We got Gracious Josh, we've got my buddy Reed Butterfield, and we actually have a new patron as well. Bergen, the Reasonable Canadian, has joined our ranks. And I'm starting to rethink my position. I'm not sure that he's that reasonable.
Arrogant. Fellow Trails fan too.
Dude.
Legend of Heroes fan. So shout out.
Yeah. I'm a little scared that at some point in time he's gonna put forth like the Trails games, and that like
maybe that'll be mine.
That's true.
You and a couple others would just be like,
a remake that came out. Yeah.
It's time. At which point in time, like I need more RPGs. Like I need holes in my head.
Right.
But I do want to play them. It's like, it's like, I know it's like the world building and everything else, but it's just like, like that time, that capital, that time investment just has me like shrieking. It's like I have to play 15 games in order to understand what's going on. I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I just wanted to shout out our patrons, and
Yeah.
Alex, yeah, thanks for giving us money, guys. And thanks for but on a less cynical and less smarmy way. Thank you for supporting us in this endeavor. Thank you
Yeah.
for partnering with us in this endeavor. Like, that's cool. That means a lot more than I think we say sometimes. Yeah. We'd
Good
still be
stuff.
doing this without you guys paying us, but we probably wouldn't be doing it as well.
Mhm.
Or
Yeah, I agree. So that's cool. We've got 3 people here on the episode. We've got all the patrons there, and then whoever is listening. And is there someone else?
Here comes a new challenger.
Oh yeah. Except this challenger, like
awkward transitions.
I feel like when you lose in Street Fighter 2, the character portrait that just lost, I feel exactly. Yes, Alex knows what I'm talking about. I just feel like I've got 2 black eyes and a swollen side of my face because my challenge from last month was to finish a co-op game with my son, and that did not happen. In fact, I can't remember a time at all in the past month that I played co-op with him. And I want to say that was mainly due to the fact that we've had sickness kind of bouncing around the house. So our schedules have been all over the place with all kinds of different things. So as much as I am loath to carry on a challenge to the next month, I'm gonna give myself a pass on this just because of how odd this past month is. But I really would like to within the next month play some more co-op with him. So that's my challenge for the next month is because I failed so horribly this past month. I'd like to set that up for next month to play some Halo with him. That's
Cool.
what I got. Nate, what are you challenging yourself with?
So I mean, I've already talked about that, like hitting -10 before I buy anything else. But I have been getting back into. I've been swinging my kettlebell around a little bit.
Nice.
Been doing 50. Like I posted it in our Discord in the Gutbusters channel, but there's it's like just basically kettlebell fundamentals, kind of like routine. It basically is a high intensity interval training sort of session. I've been doing it at 15 pounds, and I'm going to sort of, as I really sort of gain proficiency, I'm going to keep adding a little bit more weight. And eventually, what I'd like to do is do those 3 rotations at 40 pounds. And at that point in time, what I'm probably going to do is probably take a week or 2 to deload, and then move into more advanced sort of kettlebell routines. But yeah,
Intense.
I like it. And I'll tell you what, you'd be like, oh, it's 15 pounds. Like, it's not that bad. And then you do 1 full rotation, and then you do 2 full rotations. And by the time you get to the 3rd one, I'm like, I'm dying.
Yes.
Like my legs hurt, my shoulders hurt, my stomach hurts, everything hurts, and I'm dying. And it's been good to sort of get to move, just moving around again. So it's like,
Yep.
I do want to keep up, and like I said, it's just going to be just sort of gaining mastery and adding more weight. So that's like I said, it's the sort of moving forward. It's stick with the routine until I can do 3 full rotations consistently at 40 pounds.
Nice.
So
Nice. Awesome, man.
at that point in time, I'll be super ripped. So it's
Yeah.
going to be a while.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a
Well, no,
while.
you're going to have it done by next month. So.
Right.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Right. Yeah. Oh boy.
But it's time. we've done the things, we've had the conversation, and again, thank you for your time, Alex. Thanks for hopping on with us, for chilling,
Sure.
and for being just an absolute gem of a human being. It's a pleasure. But it's time to call it, boys. It's time to call it a night. It's very late. It's time. So that being said, Josh, we've done the things.
Yep.
Until next time, what should they do?
Guys,
Well,
keep
hold
eating.
on.
Oh,
If they want to find us
don't.
somewhere,
That's true. Yeah.
where can they find us?
Sorry, we were about to
Jeez.
leave you guys behind. But if you guys have stuff to say on, state of the industry or the cost of gaming or where you're at in your gaming, I don't know, I hate using the term, but I'm going to say it anyway, your gaming journey and in your collection and all that stuff. If there's stuff that you were just shouting out, like, why aren't you guys talking about this? Let us know. There's tons of places you can reach out to us on the internet, but all those places you can find at our link tree, which is linktree.com/the Backlog Breakdown. So reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
I was just thinking, and
Mhm.
and then I'll actually land the plane. But I was thinking like how I like to like throw shade at Paul because it's funny and it makes me laugh. Paul, though, you have company now, because I just mentioned like Bergen and how I'm not so sure he's a reasonable Canadian anymore. It's like you might have competition for saying things I don't like now, Paul. So anyway, I don't know why I felt the need to go back there, and
After
anyway,
shouting out the patrons.
yeah. Backhanded compliments. It's like,
Exactly.
thanks, but blah. But yes, we have done the things. I've insulted some of our patrons. I think it's time to call it a night. So until next time, Josh, what should they do?
Guys, keep beating down your backlogs and we'll keep breaking down the benefits.